Hello, Centralia. I'm Shane Lothar.
And I'm Rachel Roddy.
And this is Centralia On Air. Thank you so much for joining us. Last week on the show, we had Pam Bird from SAFE in studio. Pam stopped by to tell us more about SAFE and some of the services they offer through the Crisis Center. Hey, speaking of safes, air quotes, did you know fireproof safe boxes are basically made of volcanoes? Fire safes are made of perlite, which is known as volcanic glass. That's stuff that happens when magma cools really fast. It makes the safe super heat resistant in order to keep the insides cooler than the outside.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. Well, did you know that even if you managed to break into the impossible Fort Knox, on your way back out, you'd be greeted by 30,000 of Fort Knox military soldiers?
You're not making it out.
Not at all.
Well, did you know there's a vault in Norway that holds all of the world's seeds? It's called the Doomsday Vault because it was created to sustain life and agriculture in case of a doomsday scenario.
Yeah, Shane. It's called the Svalbard Vault. It's been around since like 2008. I thought everybody knew that.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's my bad. Anyways, that was last week, but this is this week.
That's right. On today's show, we've got one of our very own Withers radio legends in studio, Ashley Hugo. Ashley came by to tell us about Skin Cancer Awareness Month, a topic very close to her heart.
Ashley, thank you for being here today. Let's start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me today, and I sure appreciate the opportunity to talk about this issue that we're going to dive into today. Well, I will tell you my age only because that's important to what we're going to talk about today. I am 35 years old, Southern Illinois resident, and I am extremely fair-complected, because I know this is radio, so I want to paint the picture for you. I freckle very easily, and we're going to talk about skin cancer today, so that's why I tell you those things ahead of time. But I work in the media, and I am a musician, and my life pretty much revolves around music and sound and artsy and creative things.
That's right. You are radio royalty around here, right?
I don't know about royalty, but I've been in the radio business for a little bit, a few years. Let's see, this year will be 17 years, I think, in radio.
Wow.
So, yeah, been around it a little bit.
So May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, right?
Yes, May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and even more specific than just Skin Cancer Awareness Month, there is a day called Melanoma Monday, which is always the first Monday in May. So that is coming up this coming Monday. And so one of the things that Skin Cancer Awareness Month and Melanoma Monday does is just to try to start a conversation with people about skin cancer. It's something that doesn't get talked about very often. It's something that gets overlooked a lot, even though it's the most common form of cancer. And it can happen to anyone, which I think, we'll get into that a little bit more later on. But just recognizing that it's Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and hopefully people who maybe don't know much about it, if they hear about Skin Cancer Awareness Month or Melanoma Monday, will stop and say, what really is skin cancer? Because a lot of people think they know what it is. They have no idea, because I was one of those people.
So how did you get involved with advocating for skin cancer awareness?
I got into it the hard way, which I think is what a lot of people do. In hindsight, I'm very, very lucky in what I have gone through, but skin cancer for me was one of those things I did not understand whatsoever. I remember that my grandfather years and years ago, spent a ton of time outside his entire life, and I can remember him having to go to the doctor or dermatologist and have like moles cut off his arms, and that was all it was. So I thought that's what skin cancer was. I thought you go in and you've got something that looks funny and they cut it off or they freeze it off or whatever there in the office, and you're done, and that's what skin cancer is. And I've had other people say the same thing to me. Oh yeah, I've had lots of skin cancer. I've had things cut off, and now that I know, That's not what skin cancer
No.
is. Not at all. So mine came about the hard way in that when I turned, I think 31 was when I first discovered it, and most of my family is extremely pale, so we all burn very easily. But I've always been somebody who spends a ton of time outside, and I thought that I've done a pretty good job being sun safe most of my life. But I'm also somebody who got sucked into believing myths, which we'll talk about that later too. So right around the time I was 31 or so, I had a spot on my forehead that was probably not any bigger than a pimple. And it was red, and it was like I would pick it and it would come back, and this is going to be a little bit graphic, but not super graphic, I promise. But just to get the point across, that this is how it started. And I don't usually have a lot of pimples, so this thing kept coming back, and I'm like, this is crazy. I cannot get rid of this thing. Well, then got to the point after a couple months of dealing with this where it would just bleed, and it really actually hurt fairly bad, which was weird too. So the spot was like above my right eye and kind of in the middle of my forehead. And after about 6 months of this, because I'm extremely stubborn and don't go to the doctor a lot, I started researching, what this thing could be. Like a lot of people, I Googled it, what is this thing on my forehead?
Yeah.
Why does it keep coming back? Why is it bleeding? Why does it hurt? And everything, I have never Googled something and had such definitive results. Everything came back and said basal cell carcinoma. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. So I start reading more into it because like a lot of people, when I hear skin cancer, I think melanoma, and that's what skin cancer is. Mm-hmm. Well, that is a type of skin cancer, but it's certainly not the only one.
Right.
I didn't understand that. So fast forward a little bit, I do nothing about it because I'm like, well, it's just a little spot, and I don't really want to go to the doctor. I don't want to spend the money because I would have been self-pay at the time, and I just, forget about it. So I put it off. It keeps getting bigger. It keeps flaking, scabbing over, bleeding, and gets to the point where it hurts fairly badly. So I finally go to the doctor. It would have been in late 2015. Finally got a dermatologist appointment. One thing I learned is that skin problems and skin cancer are so prevalent in our society right now that anytime you make an appointment, if you're not a regular one where you've had your appointment scheduled, expect to wait 3 or 4 months before you can get in.
Wow.
Oh, my.
It's crazy. I mean, it's such an epidemic right now in our society because time is catching up with what we've done to ourselves 10 to 20, 30 years ago with tanning and everything else. So it took me quite a while to get in, even though, I told them I'm pretty sure I have a basal cell carcinoma, and I talked to a couple different places and they're like, we understand, we can get you in for 15 minutes in 3 months, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Because they're just overwhelmed all around here. So I get in, and the person that looked at me was across the room and said, yeah, that's a basal cell. We're going to have to do something with that. So she started looking at it, and they biopsied it and came back and said, after the biopsy came through, that it was pretty in there. I mean, I knew that. I'd let it go for a few years, so I knew that it was pretty deep. So she said, in some of those instances, if you catch it quicker, we can use like a chemotherapy cream or a radiation cream and get it taken care of like that. You've let it go so long, you're going to have surgery. That's the only way to get rid of that kind of thing. So thankfully, the basal cell, if you have to have cancer, this is one of the better ones to have because most of the time it can be surgically removed. I mean, for it to metastasize and spread, you'd have to wait like 10, 15 years. I mean, you'd have to really ignore it for a long time for it to be that bad. Mm-hmm. So, didn't have to worry about any kind of radiation, chemotherapy, any of that kind of stuff, just surgery. But the surgery was definitely not a pleasant experience. I don't recommend it. If you see any of those kind of issues, don't let it go like I did. The surgery ended up being what they call Mohs surgery. It's Mohs if you want to research it. you're actually awake for the surgery because the way they have to do it, they have to make sure they clear all the cancer around the area. So for me, what they did was they kind of numb you around the area almost like they do at the dentist, and then they go in and dig the cancer out. They test it to see about the outlying cells and the undercells to see if they're affected as well. And if it comes back that they are, then they have to go in again, and they just keep repeating the process till they get it all. So for me, they went in 4 times.
Oh, wow.
So they ended up having to, this is my forehead, so there's, no matter what size you are, there's not a whole lot of skin, muscle tissue, things like that on your forehead. So for me, there was a lot of nerve damage because they had to go in deep enough where they cut through nerves. So the feeling in the right side of my head is constantly numb. Even to this day, I still have just total numbness on the right side of my head. And I have a very big scar. So it doesn't have to be that way. If you have a basal cell, just get an appointment. Just get in there. Anything that you think might be doing that. If you're having the bleeding, the scabbing over, the flaking, that kind of stuff, and it's kind of painful and it won't go away, just go get it checked out, because it doesn't have to be like what mine was.
And you felt like you took pretty good care of your skin, right? Like
I
sunscreen
thought I did.
outside.
Yeah. When I told my family what was going on, they were mystified, and my mom just kind of laughed at first, and she's like, but we took care of you. Your sister should be the one that doesn't, because we didn't put sunscreen on her, and she's never had a problem. How did you, we put lots of sunscreen on you, but, some of the myths that come into place with this are, I want to touch on one, and then we'll kind of circle back. Just sun exposure in general. When I was a kid, I was outside all the time. And sure, I probably put sunscreen on when I first went out. I know, looking back, I didn't reapply like I was supposed to. I did use tanning beds, some, not a lot. I fell into that trap of, well, if you tan 5 or 10 times, you'll get a base and you won't burn. That may be true to an extent, but you're exposing your skin to horrible, horrible things. So, when I went in and saw the doctor after I had seen the nurse and did the biopsy the first time, he said, oh, you must have been one of those tanning bed queens that were just in it all the time. I said, no, and I've not had a lot of burns in my life, but, it can happen to anybody.
Oh, yeah. On days like you don't even think that the sun is, the UV rays are, high, and they are.
Yeah.
It can be cloudy and you can get a burn.
Absolutely. It can be winter and you can get a burn.
You're listening to Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. We have Ashley Hugo in studio with us today, and when we come back, she's going to talk more about May and Skin Cancer Awareness Month.
Welcome back. You're listening to Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. We have Ashley Hugo in studio today. Thinking about you and your sister. So, does that mean some people are more likely than others to have skin cancer? Is it genetics or?
It's a little bit of everything. So one of the things that I learned, and I just want to stress to anyone listening that I am not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm just somebody who's learned some things the hard way that, I want to get out there to people. I have been told repeatedly by my medical professionals and other things that I've read that yes, there are some kind of dispositions that if you are fair complected, if you have blue eyes, if you have blonde hair, any of the light, mostly European type traits, that yes, you are much more likely to get skin cancer. However, genetics, they think maybe does play at least a little bit of a role in it. But in my case, they said, well, you must have had someone who's had skin cancer. And I said, nope, I'm first in my family. I have researched and talked, and, I mentioned my grandfather that he had some skin issues, but they weren't cancerous. They were just things he was getting removed. So not even any kind of history, no breast cancer, no. Now there is one case of prostate cancer in my family, but up until my skin cancer, second cousins, third cousins, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, no cancer. I was the first one to have anything. So in my case, genetics maybe didn't play so much of a role in it. Just, I mean, I guess my complexion, didn't help, but it was the sun exposure. It was not taking care of myself like I thought I was, and getting into those myths of thinking I'm doing the right thing, but really I wasn't. And in fact, the day of my surgery, just to emphasize that it can happen to anyone, well, I had 2 surgeries because they do the Mohs surgery, and then you have to go back. I had to go back to another facility while my head was wide open and have it sewn shut, which is another thing entirely. But there was an African-American gentleman in his, I think they said early 60s next to me who was having the same thing done. So skin color, age, sex, none of that matters. If you have skin, you can get skin cancer.
So talking about sunscreen, what do you use?
Well, I have a particular product. I did a lot of research, obviously, because I kind of went not into panic mode by any stretch of the imagination, but just like, holy cow, I've got to change my lifestyle a lot because I am an outdoorsy person. I do stay outside for long periods of time. So one of the things I have tried very hard and been pretty successful at is wearing long sleeves and pants even when it's 90 degrees. And that's really difficult, but I try to do it as much as I can. If I can't stand it, then I just make sure that I take breaks inside and use lots of sunscreen. But as far as specific products, one thing I would encourage people to do is go to the Skin Cancer Foundation website, which I believe is skincancer.org. And they actually have a running list of products that they recommend. And that's something new that I just found recently. But also when you are out shopping for sunscreen, you can look for a logo that says Skin Cancer Foundation on it. And I did find one time when I was doing some research that I thought was a little bit questionable because of the ingredients and things. I didn't think the Skin Cancer Foundation would endorse it. But I think for the most part, anything you see that logo on is going to be safe. And I do want to talk specifically about a few chemicals because there are a lot of rumors and, again, myths and everything else. We're living in a time where everybody wants everything to be organic and totally natural, and that's great to an extent. But sometimes you need chemicals to be safe. I mean, that's just all there is to it. So in a couple of different Skin Cancer Foundation articles, they talk about what they call, quote, junk science, where you have these people that are promoting their organic sunscreen, but it doesn't actually contain the chemicals to keep you safe. So you're lathering this up thinking that it's going to keep you from burning, and it's just not because it doesn't have the properties to actually do that. So a couple of the ingredients to look for, and again, you can find this on the Skin Cancer Foundation website, or you can just Google this or, look through the internet. But they recommend avobenzone, oxybenzone, titanium dioxide, zinc oxide, and I apologize, I'm not totally sure how to say this one, Ecamsule, I think, Ecamsule. Anyway, those ingredients, if you have 2 of the 3, that's going to be a safe product for you to use that should really keep you safe. And another thing to look for is SPF 50 is tops. It doesn't get any higher than that. So if you see anything that says SPF 75 or SPF 100, it's really not, because those don't exist. It's false advertising. So they're just trying to make you think that their product is safer. They don't make anything higher than SPF 50.
Okay, I could be wrong about this, but I feel like I've heard the spray sunscreen is not as good as if you were to use a lotion type of sunscreen. Have you read anything about that?
I haven't. I think that's probably accurate just because I'm not sure that you could get the coverage you need with an aerosol type spray. Not to say that the product itself isn't as good, but when you think about how you're spraying, especially an aerosol, you're going to be spraying at a distance so you don't inhale it or really feel super greasy, because a lot of times that breaks down the components in it as well to make it feel kind of greasy versus creamy like a lotion or sunscreen. So you may just not be getting the coverage that you need versus just putting it on your hand and rubbing it in, the old-fashioned way.
Right.
I rock the spray. I'll
You
admit.
do.
Before I go out to mow, I just go crazy with the spray.
And spray is better than nothing.
Yeah,
Than nothing,
right.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, that's the most important thing. You're putting something on. Just remember to, you know, always kind of check your progress if you're going to be out there for a long time, or if it's a day where the rays are really, really bad, you know. And there's lots of ways to check out what the UV rating is. That's another thing that this day and age, there's no excuse for us not to get into that habit. And even myself, I have to coach myself that, you know, if I wake up on a Saturday where I'm going to be working outside, check the UV rating before I even go out. It's on lots of different apps. Most of us, not everybody, but most of us have smartphones, you know, where we check the temperature in the morning. Just go ahead and scroll down and check the UVA, UVB rating as well. Because I think you'd be shocked in Illinois that a lot of the times we have higher rates than Florida or some of these other coastal communities for various reasons. But like this past weekend, I was working outside and I checked before I went out because I just thought, well, I might not be out there that long. Do I need the big sunscreen or is the 35 okay? You know, do I need to put the 50 on? And it was an 8, which is extremely dangerous.
Wow.
So, you know, it only goes up to 11. You know, 11 is like, don't ever go outside and shut your curtains. You know, that's extremely rare in our area. We won't hardly ever see an 11, but you know, it was only 50 degrees. It was windy. It was chilly. And I thought, wow, this is worse than July. July,
Yeah.
a lot of times we hang around a 6 or 7, and we were at an 8 this past Saturday, and Monday was like that too.
I know I saw you post on Facebook, and I usually don't think about the UV rays until, you know, like June or July when I'm in the pool. And I saw you post that, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I can't believe that it's high in April or May.
Yeah. Temperature, that's another thing that we fall into, thinking that temperature has something to do with the exposure of the UVA and UVB rays, and it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. You know, it was a lot of having a cloudless day. You know, there was hardly a cloud in the sky Saturday, and just a lot of exposure. You know, and I don't totally understand the science of all of it, but, you know, it's easy to look at that and go, okay, the scale is 0 to 11. We know that 10 and 11, that range is just don't even go outside for anything. Don't walk to your car. Just don't. That's crazy because you can burn in minutes whenever it's that high. But I ran into a friend a couple weeks ago that, you know, just fell into that trap of, you know, well, I'm going to be outside working all day and, you know, it's early spring, it's cold, and he was horribly burned. I'm sure he ended up blistering. He looked terrible. And, you know, I said, you can't, I know, I've been there, I've done that, but you can't assume that because it's chilly that you're not going to burn. And he looked awful.
Ugh. I hate sunburns. They hurt so
It's
bad.
so
It's not
painful.
worth it.
No, it
Worse.
really isn't.
Ashley, you kind of hinted at this earlier, but there's more than one type of skin cancer, isn't there?
Yes, that's another thing that I feel like is a myth that we don't know as much about as we should, because if we don't understand that there's more than one type of skin cancer, then we don't necessarily know what to look for. And I would greatly encourage everyone to make an appointment with a dermatologist if you've never been in before, just to do what they call a skin scan. And it's not any different than any other type of cancer, just checking everything out to make sure you don't have anything scary looking that could be cancerous. You know, in your very first appointment, if everything goes fine, they don't see anything, they probably won't tell you to come back for another year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. I'm not sure. I've not had that luxury of going that far. But you know, do self-checks at home as well. And you're probably going to have somebody help you, because especially as we get older, our skin starts changing just like everything else. So, you know, I went from somebody who, even though I freckle a lot, I had one mole my entire life, never had another one until my 30s. And now they're popping up like mad. And of course, I have to get every single one checked because, in addition to the basal cell, I have had melanoma, and I've had 2 or 3 other spots, you know, that just looked fishy that they went ahead and took out. They were way ahead of time, so they weren't considered cancerous, but they had the productivity of cancer. So it was, you know, just really early detection. But skin cancer is again, if it's something that you have to have cancer, what a great thing to have because you can see it, and check behind your knees, check your ribs, check everything, because especially a lot of melanomas will develop on the trunk, so around your rib cage, your stomach, your back, different places like that, where you might think, oh, well, I'm never in the sun, so that's not a place, I've never walked around in a bikini in my entire life, or I've never used a tanning bed. Well, that doesn't necessarily matter. The skin cancer doesn't necessarily come in the place where you've had exposure. And your skin covers your entire body, so it's all linked together, so it can happen on any part of you. So I would very much recommend anybody going into seeing a dermatologist to get things checked out and educate yourself about the different types of skin cancer. Melanoma is one, of course, that is terrifying, because if it's something that's a little bit further advanced, if it's something you've ignored or you've not understood that it's something you should be watching, it's very invasive and it can spread very, very quickly. And it is one of the biggest killers of women ages, I think it's 18 to 27. I mean, young girls. Mm-hmm. Because they don't know what it is, they don't understand they should be watching, and sometimes it can be a very small mole. You hear these nightmare stories about young girls in their early 20s passing away because they didn't know that this mole was cancerous. They didn't know they should be watching it. They didn't know it looked weird. To them, it just looked normal. But there's a lot of great information out there on the internet about learning the ABCDEs of melanoma, learning shapes, colors, all that kind of stuff. The melanoma I had was actually on one of my small toes, of all places.
Wow.
And the only reason it was really caught was because, like I said, I've not had many moles, so they started popping up after I had the basal cell. So now I'm watching everything, and kind of understanding what I need to be looking for. And so I had gone into one of my regular checkups, because I was on an every 3-month checkup there for a while. And I said, would you look again at this one on my toe? I said, I think it's changing. I think it's getting bigger. And the shape is not perfectly round. So, healthy moles really should be perfectly round, or they should be, not in a weird shape. They might be square, they might be triangular, but they shouldn't be curvy. They shouldn't look like a big splat, So mine was starting to take an odd shape, and it was really a dark brown. When it first started out, it was very light brown. So he said, I think it's probably nothing, but with your history, let's go ahead and check it. And that's what it came back was, is melanoma. So we caught it very, very quickly, but I did still have to have surgery on that as well. And that, because it was so early, thankfully was in office, but it was still very painful. Because melanoma roots a lot deeper than a basal cell or some of the other types of cancer, so they have to dig deeper, to get that out. But there's Merkel cell, which is a little bit more rare. You don't hear as much about that one. Squamous cell happens a lot, especially for older people, and a lot of the times will happen on the lips. You don't think of your lips necessarily as being skin, but it is. You can get cancer on your lips, so you should always wear some sort of lip protector with SPF in it, as crazy as that sounds. And squamous cell can be pretty intense to get rid of as well. So there's others as well, but those are kind of the more common ones: the squamous cell, basal cell, and melanoma that we hear more about.
Oh man, lip burns.
Mm-hmm.
They hurt.
They're brutal.
My experience was not that bad at all, but I went out on the boat, out on the lake, and I, put SPF sunscreen on my lips, and it felt like every hour I was reapplying, because it was just soaking through so fast.
Yeah.
So that's something you really got to reapply a lot.
Absolutely. And it depends what you get as well. That's one of those things you have to kind of watch for, because if you're getting something that's too waxy, that has a lot of wax in it, it's not necessarily going to absorb in your lips, because if you think about, you wax your car, it repels water. So it's not soaking into your skin, it's staying only on the surface. So if you're putting something that's really waxy on your lips and taking a drink of water, you've just washed it all off. So get something that doesn't have a lot of wax properties in it.
Anything else you want to add?
I would encourage everyone to go get checked. If you've never been, just go do it, and educate yourself. I know a lot of people have anxiety about going to doctors and things like that, so it doesn't hurt to educate yourself ahead of time. You are going to find what they call the Skin Cancer Foundation, you're going to find some junk science out there, stuff that's not true, and it is hard to infiltrate all that. But especially if you look for the ABCDEs of melanoma, that's a great place to start, where you can actually see images, and sometimes they're really extreme, but you can see images of what a bad mole looks like versus what an okay mole looks like. So if you have anything that you kind of look at and you think, that's got a little bit of a purple tinge to it, or a really dark brown, or I think that's changed. I think the color's gotten darker. I think the shape has gotten bigger. If it's changing, then you need to be seeing a doctor, because change is not a good thing when it comes to moles. Natural moles should kind of stay the same over time, or they might darken a little bit, or they might get a little bit bigger. But if they are changing rapidly, if they have an odd shape, an odd color, get to a doctor and get it checked out.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. We hope to have you back again.
Thank you.
You're listening to Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Shane and Rachel here. You're listening to Centralia on Air. Rachel, how you been?
Good. Great. Grand.
Yeah? Did you end up doing anything for Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah. I worked at the Elks.
Oh.
So, served some margaritas.
Yeah. Probably a whole lot of mucho margaritas,
right?
Huh?
What about you?
We didn't really do anything. However, my family from out of state came in to visit for one of my daughter's birthdays. I could tell you all about it, but we really don't have time for that. Did you see what time it is?
No, what time is it?
It's time for the top 5. So, last I checked, everybody has a mom. Everyone was birthed.
Yeah? So we owe a lot to our moms.
Yep.
Did you know that the average mom has been found to work the equivalent of 2 full-time jobs every week?
I believe it.
I do too.
So, Rachel and I thought, why not give moms out there a nice, relaxing Mother's Day this year? Maybe instead of showering them with cheap gifts or stale candy, how about giving your mom an experience or memory she can always remember?
So, here's our top 5 best things to do with your mom this Mother's Day, which is 1 week from today. So don't forget.
Let the countdown begin.
Yeah. All right. Number 1, let her sleep in. This is especially true for new moms. Give her what she really wants, more sleep.
Amen.
Hey, what do they say? I don't want to sleep like a baby. I just want to sleep like my husband.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. And I take offense to it.
Oh.
Not really. I do sleep very well. I understand what they're saying. Take the kids, get out of earshot, get out of the house if you have to, and let mom catch up on some extra Z's. Maybe buy one of those eye mask things. Boom. Bonus gift. There you go. Have you ever used one of those things?
No.
Me neither. I feel like it would really bother me.
I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
1, I feel like it'd give me a headache. And 2, I think I'd go into panic mode when I tried to open
Wake
my
up,
eyes.
yeah, freak you out a little bit. I'm blind.
All right, number 2. This is my favorite. Somebody can do this for me even if I'm not a mom.
Oh boy.
Go wine tasting. If all the kids are over 21, then why not head to the local winery for a little Mother's Day wine tasting?
Now, if she's not a wine mom, you could always check out a local craft brewery or something. Heck, I'd even like to go see the ski guys, right? What's that, Excel bottling?
Oh, yeah.
I'll go on a tour.
That'd be fun. But here's the important part. When the tasting is over, grab a bottle or 2 of her favorite one and to take home. Boom. Bonus gift.
Boom. So this next one is a Mother's Day classic, and for good reason. Our number 3 pick, breakfast in bed, or more like brunch in bed if you let her sleep in earlier, right?
That's right. At least like 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, no, that's good.
You can still eat. You can still whip up some pancakes and waffles, fruit, orange juice,
Yeah.
and then get all the kids in bed for some cuddle time.
Aw, who doesn't love some good cuddles and snuggles? Now, to really make a great presentation, though, you need to pick up one of those cool, fancy-looking breakfast in bed food trays, right? And there is your bonus gift. Boom!
Another one. Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4, plan a picnic. How cute would that be? What mom wouldn't love a little fun in the sun with her favorite food and her favorite people?
It just melts your heart, doesn't it?
So sweet.
And your ice cream.
Yeah.
And if you're planning a picnic, you know what you got to get, right? You got to get that, boom, bonus gift. How about a lovely picnic basket? Hey, boo-boo.
All right, before we give you our number 5 pick, here are some honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Number 1, go see a movie. When was the last time Mom watched a movie that didn't have talking babies or supervillains threatening to destroy the galaxy?
Oh, that hits home. Number 2, make her dinner. Chances are, Mom usually is the one cooking, so give her the night off and try to whip up something halfway edible, huh?
And number 3, go ahead and book her a mani-pedi. Nothing says you're the best like a good foot scrub and a fresh coat of paint.
Amen.
Oh, you want to go?
No, just kidding. I don't know what that is. I've never experienced those things.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, you should.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I'm in there getting mine done, there's guys in there.
Interesting.
Do it.
Okay. Maybe for research purposes.
Yeah.
That's all.
You'd like it.
Okay. Okay, back to our list. Our number 5 top pick for best things to do with your madre this Mother's Day. Let her Netflix binge while you, wait for it, clean the house. Oh, did you hear that?
What?
I think I just heard moms all over Southern Illinois cheering out in ecstasy.
I think so.
Yeah.
You gonna do that?
Cheer out in ecstasy or clean the house.
Both.
Yeah, I'll do some cleaning.
All right.
I could do that.
Yeah, set her up a little snack tray, popcorn, cookies, maybe that glass of wine she likes.
Hey, there you go.
Well, you strap on some of those yellow gloves and get to scrubbing.
You look like a superhero to her. See, that's a superhero movie she would watch.
Yeah,
All the kids and the dad cleaning house.
that's right.
Looking like a little grime fighting superheroes.
Yeah, well, she sits with her feet up.
Yeah.
Or getting that mani-pedi.
Hello. All right, that's our top 5 best things to do with your mom on Mother's Day. If you've got some cool ideas, let us know. You can leave a comment on our Facebook page. Just look for the Centralia On Air May 6th event page.
You're listening to Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the community calendar. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Centralia on Air with Shane and Rachel. Here's a look at your community calendar. Centralia Youth Football is hosting a 4-person golf scramble on Saturday, May 12th at Greenview Golf Course in Centralia. Shotguns start at noon, $70 per person or $280 per team. Food and drinks will be provided, door prizes, and 50-50 drawing. For more information, contact Clint at 532-0922.
Mount Vernon Festival Fun Night on Saturday, May 12th from 6 to 9 at Mount Vernon American Legion. Food, games, and fun. Tickets are $10 in advance. For more information, call 242-3151.
The first annual Warrior Nation Cancer Foundation Golf Scramble on Saturday, May 19th at Colonial Golf Course in Sandoval. Shotguns start at 10 a.m., $65 per person or $240 per team. Food, drinks, and door prizes included. All proceeds raised by WNCF will help cancer patients with living expenses. For more information and to sign up, call the golf course at 247-3307.
St. Mary's Hospital is hosting a special AA meeting with guest speaker Kathy Oden on Saturday, May 19th at 7 p.m. For more information, call 532-3822.
Spring book sale at Centralia Regional Library will be held in the Monken Activity Room on Saturday, May 19th from 10 to 4. Take home a bag of books for only $5.
SAFE will be hosting their 21st annual golf scramble at Colonial Golf Course in Sandoval on Monday, June 4th. The four-lady 18-hole scramble will tee off at 9 a.m., $55 per person with lunch provided. For more information, contact Heather at Colonial Golf Course at 247-3307.
Market days in Mount Vernon at Veterans Park on the first Saturday each month starting in May through September from 8 to 2.
And for your local blood drives this week, Wednesday, May 9th, Dick's Community Center from 2 to 6. Sunday, May 20th, St. Teresa Catholic Church in Salem from 8 to noon. And Monday, May 21st, Heritage Woods in Benton from 3 to 7. That's a look at your community calendar on X95 in the Big 1210. If you have an event you'd like to share with us, you can email wiley1210@gmail.com. Or for more information about these events and others, check out our website, x95radio.com. That's it for this week. If you like what you hear, come back every Sunday at 11 on X95 in the Big 1210. You can find past shows on YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at X95WRXX. She's Rachel Roddy.
And he's Shane Lothar.
And this was Centralia On Air.